So first, I want to thank you all for coming out here this evening. I want to start off with some thanks. I want to thank the community out there for a lot of the well wishes that have been pushed out to the Phoenix Police Department, as well as the officer involved in this. The officer, as I've mentioned previously, she has just less than a year on with the Phoenix Police Department. She is still being treated at the hospital with the same condition, non-life-threatening injuries. She's doing very well. She's got her squad mates, her family with her, so everything's going very well on that regard. And again, I appreciate the community for reaching out and providing those well wishes. We cannot do this job without the community, so it's a relationship that we have, and we are very thankful that we have such great community members that provide us all the great stuff that has come with it. With that being said, this evening after our brief at the hospital, detectives, investigators, and officers were still conducting investigations and going through every little part of this neighborhood behind me to look for the suspect that was involved in this horrific and heinous act. As detectives started utilizing certain investigative skills and information that they were able to gather throughout the investigation, we were able to identify the suspect being inside of a local residence along Atlanta Avenue near 11th Avenue. Our detectives with the special special assignments unit were responded to the scene. They were able to use less lethal munitions to have the suspect exit the top roof section of the residence. He was later taken into custody. It's still in the beginning phases of this investigation. He will be booked into jail. That process still in place. I cannot provide any information on the suspect himself. I hope to have a booking number and more information tomorrow morning to put out in the updated media advisory. And just to kind of go over what happened earlier today, officers responded to the area of 11th Avenue and Atlanta Avenue at roughly 9:46 a.m. The reason that the officers came to this location was because there was a hit and run accident where the caller gave a description of the male suspect who was seen in that vehicle. As that first responding officer came on to scene, she saw a male that matched that same description. As she was still in her vehicle approaching the scene, the suspect pulled a rifle and immediately began shooting at the officer. The officer was able to do a tactical maneuver with her patrol vehicle and get away from that area. However, in that situation, she was shot one time in the left hip, as well as received bullet fragments to her face. She was able to be treated on scene by Phoenix Fire Department, who then transported her to a local hospital where she's still receiving that aid. As far as the update on the suspect, when he was taken into custody, less lethal munitions were used. He did receive a minor injury and was transported to a local hospital for those minor injuries. With that being said, I'd be more than happy to answer questions that you may have.
Is it standard now that officers are patrolling alone by themselves in a vehicle?
So the Phoenix Police Department has always had single patrol officers as well as double officers. What we do encourage is that officers ride together. It's really an option. Again, for the safety of our officers, we want to make sure that every call that an officer goes to, there's going to be multiple officers going to those calls.
Sergeant, earlier the chief referenced prohibitive possessors. I know you can't tell us much about the suspect right now. Can you tell us if he was a prohibitive possessor or any kind of history that may have given him reason to run or act this way?
So for this particular suspect, because he's still under investigation, detectives are still waiting to speak with him and question about this crime. We don't have that information that we can put out at this time. It will be in his booking paperwork. Again, tomorrow morning when I provide that booking number to you, you should be able to get all that information through the court.
Are you releasing the officer's name?
We will be releasing the officer's last name. Again, that's going to be in an update through the media advisory tomorrow morning.
Do you know if the suspect had any association or connection to the residence that he was found in?
That's a great question. That's something that our detectives are looking into right now to figure out how he gained access to the house, if he's known to the neighborhood. Those are all questions that detectives plan on answering throughout the course of this investigation.
Do we have a rough age range of the suspect? I know you can't
Yes.
give too many details.
So the suspect is in his late 20s.
Was she shot in a car? Her left
Yes,
hip?
the officer was in the car when she was shot.
So she was trying to get the hell out of there, and a bullet hit her in her left hip.
Correct.
Yeah, street side,
Driver's side. Correct.
driver's side.
Yes.
Are you able to talk about how y'all got him off the roof? I mean, we saw the video of him getting hit. He goes back in the building, but then comes out with his hands up. Are you able to talk about that process of getting him out of that building?
Well, once the suspect was on the roof, he was able to climb down from the roof on top of one of our special assignment units' vehicles, and we were able to get him into custody from there.
And about how long was that process from being in that building to him finally leaving and getting?
Well, as you could tell through the time frame on the cameras from the media helicopter of when he was on the roof, we could say that he was in that house almost minutes after the initial shooting took place until the helicopter picked him up coming out of that roof access from the house.
So you think he was there the entirety of the hours that you guys were searching?
That is a possibility. That's one of the situations that the detectives are looking at. So when a situation like this happens, the entire neighborhood is blocked off. We're going to be searching every square inch of that neighborhood, front yards, backyards. We're going to rely on the community members to give us a little bit of information on if they've seen something strange, something suspicious in their neighborhood. Community members know their neighborhood better than we do, and we rely on that relationship. So while we had an understanding where he may be, we still didn't want to neglect the rest of the neighborhood to ensure that the community was safe.
And was it community tips that led you to where he was at? And did anyone have to be evacuated?
Because it's an ongoing investigation, I can't speak on behalf of what led us to that particular house. But again, we do appreciate the community's involvement, utilizing those resources, silent witness, as well as just calling into a non-emergency number.
What about the person he hit
Vantage point.
I'm sorry, the person that he hit?
in the car accident?
So that car accident, it was a single vehicle accident where he collided with a wall of a nearby residence.
Just trying to confirm based off that, we were able to see a black car that kind of had damage on the front that was on the side of a residence on 11th Avenue in Atlanta. Would that be the car?
I don't want to speculate to exactly what car that you saw, but yes, it was a black passenger car, and it was kind of high centered on a rock near the intersection 11th Avenue and Atlanta Avenue.
So
All right, one more question here.
What makes this an ambush attack?
So what makes this an ambush attack is the officers are called to a specific location, and this suspect pulled the rifle and immediately started shooting at the officer. So when an officer is not expecting to be confronted with a situation like that, that is the definition of an ambush. And that's what the Chief Sullivan was talking about today is not only are gun crimes on the rise, and we're committed to lowering that with the help of the community, but when something as brazen as somebody who wants to pull a rifle and immediately start shooting at a patrol car, that is uncalled for. That's something that the community should be outrageous about. That should be something that the nation in itself should look at and say, this is unacceptable behavior. But again, the bright side is the officer's doing well, and we do again want to push out a thanks to the community for their well wishes on the officer's well-being. So thank you again for coming out here. Again, we will shoot out a media update for the booking information as well as the suspect's information tomorrow
So
morning.
everything will be updated through paper now and email.
Correct.
And
No
that'll
more
be
on camera.
Tomorrow morning, yes. After the booking process is done and we have a booking number to attach to that paperwork. All right.
Can we just get your first last name?
Yes, it's Sergeant Brian Bauer, B-R-I-A-N. Last name is Bauer, B-O-W-E-R. And I'm a sergeant with the Phoenix Police Department through the Public Affairs Bureau. All right.
Thank you so
Thank you so much, guys.
much.